right? So here, right, this is just like a whiteboard, so I can have this on recording. Otherwise, I'd draw it over there. So just be nice, all right? I can't draw, and it's even harder on a mouse. So here we have, right, you have this model here, right? This is your class, and this would be your bank account, BA for bank account, right? And then you have like your person class, right? P for person, and they are related, all right? This person has many, I'm just gonna draw a bunch of these, bank accounts, right? Because we're all rich, you know, checking, savings, overseas, Swiss bank account, you know what I'm saying, like all of them. Platinum Saver Plus. You guys like sign up for a bank account recently? They're out of control. So a person can have many bank accounts, but each of these bank accounts will belong to one person. All right, so when I draw like this fork, right, this is what is known as the one, and this is what is known as the many. Right, the many, right, and this is the one. Ugh, look at this sweet English, right? Thank you for that saving grace. The many, right? Any questions on this so far? No? Cool. And that's essentially it for like the one to many. Thanks so much for your time today. Yeah. Any other questions? Wow, it's tough. All right, so what do we know so far about Ruby, right? What do we know about objects? Like, what can we do with objects right now? What's the first thing you think about when you want to make a new object?
Well, I can think about first creating the class and initializing that.
Sweet. So the first thing we can do is we can create new objects, right? So we can create them. Like we just literally drop in, just drop into Ruby, any Ruby file, and just call class, and then the class name that we want in camel case, and then we hit end, right? Class is open. Questions so far? What else do we know about them? What can we do with this class? Right? So we can make a new one, right? So we can do like object.new. I'm sorry, class.new. Right? And what does class.new take? I'll wait, it's fine. What does class.new take? Arguments, right? Like the questions are not designed to be hard. So I spelled that wrong. So it's much harder on the screen. All right, and when we call .new, what method are we referring to within the class? Right, so we can initialize new objects, right, within the class. And what are the arguments that we pass into the class? What are they in relation to the class? How would I describe them? What does ATTR stand for? All right, so we know that there are attributes, right? And what can we do with them? Okay, we can read and write them, all right? And what are these essentially? Sorry, adder should be lowercase. All right, what are these? What are adder accessors? What is an adder reader? What is an adder writer? So it's just the getter and the setter methods, right? I'm like writing this in capital because it's really important. They're just getter and setter methods, right? So anything I feed into in the arguments, I make what? What do I make them? I drop this thing, and then I say like, so these are instance variables, right? They're named instance variable for a reason because they belong to the instance. Yes, thank you. Right, very good. You guys are crushing it. So they belong to the instance, right? So there's something else that we can do. What else can we do in regards to variables? All right, we talked about instances. We talked about making instances in a class. All right, what other type of variables exist within a class? Okay, so look a little bit like this, right? Seem familiar so far? Have I lost anyone? All right, so class variables. What are class variables called on? Right, so the class has access to the class variable, right? And the instance variable has access to what? Right? So those are attributes of the instance, and the class variable are what? Attributes of the class. It's like they're completely separate. It's not like multiplying and dividing fractions where you gotta like turn them and flip them and like do all this crazy stuff. It's like they're in their own lane. Any questions so far on this whatsoever? Right now, this is what we know, right? What I could do is I can easily drop in and I can make a class called school. Shul, right? And then what can I do? I could probably make define initialize. The school has what? Instructors? And students, right? Probably some sort of address or something, right? Let's not get too crazy. So what can I do? I can do something like Flatiron School, right, equals to school.new. And then I can pass in, what do we have? We have some instructors, right? So let's make an array of instructors. We have G for Gary, right? We have eMoney. And who else do we have? Man, this is hard to do. J, right? So far so good, right? The only attribute I have right now for school are the instructors. Not putting anything else in there, right? So naturally, with my getter and setter method, I can just call flatiron.instructors, and I should get what? I'm gonna get this. I'm sorry, I missed one. It's gonna return to me an array with the instructors. I'm looking at a sea of blank faces over here. Did I lose anyone? I'll just explain that again. That's fine. So I instantiated a new school, all right? And the school has an attribute of instructors. I made a getter method for instructors, right? I could have put it in adder accessor or adder getter. Adder reader. And thanks for paying attention. And I call on the instance, because Flatiron is what? The class or the instance? In the instance, right? So on the instance, I'm calling the instance method instructors, which is the getter method, and it's going to return to me. Oh wow, that's why you're all confused. Sorry. It's going to just return to me the array of instructors, right? So far, so good. Now, what do I know about the instructors within this array? They're just strings, right? Can I get any additional information from a string? What? What can I know about G Money over here, Gary, as a string? What can I find out about Gary? Can I get Gary's age? Can I get Gary's seniority? Can I get Gary's favorite color or basketball player? Probably not. So what I want to do now is I want to create additional models, and I want to have them have a relationship with each other, right? So I could easily just make a new class, right, of instructor. Wow, it's embarrassing, all right? And then in there, what can I do? I can do a define initialize, right? And the only attribute I want for them is name. So naturally, does this make sense if I were to do instructor.new and then I were to pass in Gary? What would that give me? That would give me what? What is Gary here? Gary is an instance of the instructor class, right? Here I can call Gary. Can I do Gary.name? Yes or no? Who says yes? Who says no? Okay, I can do Gary.name. So if I were to just finish this instructor class, I would define initialize, right? And I would just put name, right? And then I would do @name equals to name. And then somewhere up here, because it's 2018, we just do whatever we want with our names, all right? I can do adder accessor, and I can do name. So Gary.name would exist. Right? So I put instructor new, I feed in a name. Gary is the instance over here, and I can call the instance method, right, which is, remember, just my getter method. That's calling on the instance variable, and it's going to return to me the string Gary. So far, so good? So, Gary's the instance. Imagine in a world now where I can, in fact, replace these, where I want to be able to call on Flatiron instructors, right? And then be able to return an array. Instead of strings, I want to be able to return objects, right? And then there's like a bunch of numbers and stuff. Have you seen this before? Right? Where like you're in the terminal and you're like, cool, bet IRB, and then you do, what is it, like string.new. Oh no, it's just going to give me a cool string. What can I do? It's going to give me a new one. Like hash.new? String.new? Have you seen it where like you make the new one and then it just like returns like a weird thing? Right, the object ID and all that. So like it would be whatever string.new is and then object ID. Do you remember me doing over this? Except it puts in like a hash like beforehand and then it like fills it in with these like angle brackets. Do you know what I'm saying? So basically what this is just a representation of an instance of an instructor. This right here is an object. Does that make sense? I want to be able to pass in objects now. And I want my objects to know about other objects.
And by passing them in, you're using the notation that rocket symbol?
No, this just means like return value. In the same way that when I call Flatiron.instructors, the return is going to be an array of strings. I would like it eventually to be an array of objects. Right? So there's a Gary object, there's an Evans object, and there's a John object. So then if I wanted to, I can go in this array, and I can go dot each into them as an iterator, and I can call that object dot name, and then it will give me the name. So I now have additional information about each of these objects, which are instances of the instructor class, building my relationship with instructors, which is actually Flatiron, which is an instance of the school class. Did I lose anybody? One more time. I want to be able to get objects, right? So instructors will return to me objects, right, from this instance of a different class. That's why it's called a relationship. Because it makes sense, right? Let's talk about the relationship between instructors and schools, right? Now, I probably don't know very much about the other instructors, but I don't really moonlight. I don't also teach at like another like coding boot camp, right? So it would be very fair and safe for me to say that I, as an instructor, belong to Flatiron School. Right? Andrew is an instructor, and he belongs to Flatiron School. How many instructors does Flatiron School have? You don't have to know the answer. Just like, is it one or more? More, right? So if I were to build out that domain again, right, in this exact same way, cool. Right? I have schools, schools, Z, right? And I have instructors, inst. Right? How would I say this relationship between schools and instructors? Schools, what instructors? Right? Schools, what instructors? Schools, one-to-many instructors. That's really good English. Right? Schools has many, right, instructors. And each one of these instructors belongs to the school. Right? So what is school? Is school that has many, or school is the one? This is the one, and then this is the many. Yeah? Check. So far, so good. And that's really about it in terms of object relationships. So, with that being said, all right, let's go over our objectives. What are we trying to do today? We're trying to talk about what is a one-to-many. I'm going to post this code. All right. Any questions on one-to-many so far? All right, cool. I want to go over something known as the single source of truth. Has anyone heard of this concept? Who's heard of single source of truth? Who has not heard of single source of truth? Oh, thank God, yes. All right, I don't say that because, like, thank God you don't know, but, like, I'm just seeing hands, and it makes me happy. I'm excited. So, the single source of truth, in the same way that we always want all of our methods to have single responsibility, we want our objects to only know about themselves, all right? So if we were to go back to the other example, all right, with school and instructors, this school right here, right, and the instructors, how would you say the school and the instructors, how much do they know about each other? Let me take a wild guess. The question is like not like perfect. How much would you say the school currently knows about the instructors? Right? I would say not a lot. I would say the school only knows that it has instructors. Right? And each one of those instructors, right, knows about itself. So what I mean to say is if I were to go, hey, Flatiron School, what are the names of your instructors? Flatiron School should say, I have no idea. I just know that I have all of these instructor objects. I would go to the instructor class and ask Gary.name to give me the instructor name. I'm not going to go, if this doesn't make sense, you're on the right path. Flatiron, right, which is the instance of the school, dot instructor, dot name. Right? Because the school doesn't really know about the instructor's name right now. The instructor should know about the name. Does that make sense? Like I can't call on Flatiron School, like Flatiron School, again, dot instructor names. And it's not going to know. Like, what is this an instance of? School class, right? And a school class has how many attributes? 1. And what's the attribute for school class? Instructor, right? And that's just an array. It's an array of objects. So I would need to go in to FlatironSchool.instructor, right? And that's going to give me what? An array. So then I would do a dot each, right? And then each one of these is what? X? Yes, instructor. Let's name these things properly, right? And then what am I going to do? I'm going to call on each of the instructors, and I'm going to ask for its name. So here, the single source of truth and the responsibility of each thing is that the school knows about the instructor, and then each instructor knows its own name. I shouldn't be able to call Flatiron School.instructor names and it return me anything. Did that make sense? I can build a method now, right, called def like instructor names. Just forgive my spelling real quick. Right? And then it'll run something like this. Right? But if I'm running something like this inside the school class, what is Flatiron? Like the instance, right? So I'm calling this on myself. Right? Yeah? Okay, cool. All right. Don't worry if Once we start building out the model and you'll see the code run, I'm gonna like pause it line by line, we'll see it run. I just want to give you like that high level overview of like what's about to go down. So we have the single source of truth, right? I pulled up some other stuff. Here we go. Bloop. I didn't want you to see all this yet, you know, but here we go. This is what we're trying to go for today, right? We want to implement one object to many objects, right? One object has many objects. One object belongs to another object, right? Which is where you can call like an array of other objects, and that's like where the relationship is formed. And we're going to build like a really bootleg Twitter. That's what we're going to build today, because that's kind of where relationships make sense. Unless you guys want to go on a completely different path, we can do that. I mean, I can code anything you want, all right? So here's some examples of like a one-to-many, right? A universe has many galaxies, and then a galaxy belongs to a universe. For those of you who aren't like science nerds, I'll have another one. Like an author can write many books, right? Like I can literally go write 4 or 5 books, and then when I sell them on Amazon, they're all gonna say, what? By your boy Evans Wang, right? All those books belong to me as the author. And in the same way that, how do you guys use Twitter? Nobody? Okay. Who knows what Twitter is though, right? You like understand what it is? Okay, cool. So you could have like your Twitter username. You're logged in, right? You're Coffee Dad, you're Wangtron, you're whoever you want to be, right? How many tweets can you write? Just one? You just like one tweet. Your whole account is one tweet. Right, you can write many tweets. You can tweet all day. You can be like, sitting in Wangtron's class, whack, hashtag yawn, right? If you want to. And then right after, you can be like, I'm going to get coffee later. I don't know why that makes sense, but it does, right? Because it's Twitter. So you as a user can have many tweets, right? And all of those tweets that you made, who do they belong to?
One person.
They belong to you, right? That one person. In the same way that there's another account, right, that can have tweets, and all of those tweets belong to those that made them. You can retweet them, but they'll always belong to the person that tweeted it. Right? Like there's another example that I like to use. Does anyone know about like squirrels? Anything about squirrels? All right, squirrels are weird creatures, right? They like to make a lot of different homes. Like a squirrel doesn't make just one nest, right? A squirrel will make many nests, right? So like back in the summer of '69, hanging out with Bryan Adams, like a squirrel will, yes, thank you, will like make a nest, right, in like an oak tree or something. And then next year, it'll just be like, nah, that oak tree was whack. I didn't like it. It was like really cold up there. It'll make another nest in like a maple tree, right? So you could tell that this squirrel has what? Many nests, right? And each of those nests, squirrels are very protective, by the way. They don't share, just so you know, like private info. Each of those nests belongs to the squirrel that made it. Does that make sense? So if I were to just draw it out in this high-speed domain, what do we have here? We can have squirrel, right? And then we can have nests, Z, right? A squirrel, what? Many nests. Right, yeah, exactly. For those that can't see in the back, right? This is like the many. Squirrels have many nests, and each of these nests belongs to a squirrel, right? So far, so good? I lose anybody? Yeah, that one's a little abstract, but it's okay. It's just for the example. Cool? All right, let's do this. Let's build something, right? Do you guys want to build Twitter, or do you want to build this like squirrels and nests? Squirrels and nests. Squirrels and nests? Raise your hand for squirrels and nests. Come on, damn it. Raise your hand for Twitter. All right. We'll build Twitter. But joke's on you, we'll build squirrels and nests tomorrow. So here are your deliverables. right? So for those of you that were worried about like the coding assessment, what it's going to look like, and I promise you I'd talk about it later in tomorrow's lecture, which was yesterday, which is actually today. Right? Did you follow me on that? You guys are smart. So this is what it's going to look like. It's literally going to look like this. Hey, this is a list of deliverables. Build it. Right? And then I told you, like, I'm going to build it from scratch and I'm going to show you. Let's do that. Cool. Let's get out of this sweet IRB sesh. Let's finish this domain, right? Sorry, I'm like running out of space here. Bloop. All right. So we have tweets, and then we have like a user, right? What is the relationship here? Tweets and user. The user has many tweets. Check. Look at that no look. You like that? That no look? Look at that. See that? It's crazy. All right. Any questions on this? All right. If I ever refer to something called a schema, all right, I'm just talking about a visual representation of what my data looks like. All right. So when I say things like, oh, hey, just check your schema, or like, what's your schema look like? You just have to say, here's my model, tweets, my other model, user, and the way they're related is that a user has many tweets, and a tweet belongs to a user. I'd be like, awesome. If you could just say things like that to me, I will understand that you have complete comprehension. Remember when I was asking you, like, I'm going to ask you these questions, like, what's going on? Like, after the assessment, we'll sit down one-on-one. That's what I'm looking for. Right? Shouldn't be too complicated. Does anyone have any questions whatsoever on the one-to-many? The has many and the belongs to.
It was called a schema.
Yeah, I'm going to use that a lot. So all it is, again, is just a visual representation of your data and the data structure. Right? Cool. All right, let's get rid of that. Bloop, bloop. Cool. All right. So let's build this. That's not the one I want. I want this one. Yeah. All right, so let's do it. What do we call this? All right. First thing we want to do is I want to make the tweets or user. Doesn't really matter. What do we want to do? User. And then what else do we want to make? Anything else? That's cool for now, right? I mean, I just need my... Who knew you could do that? It made both files. Look at that. Look at that. All right? I don't have to blow it up as much. The screen's kind of big over here. You guys get it? Quick. Great. So, who's seen this before? Split right. Whoa, gee. All right, so first thing we need to do is what? Build the user class. Or the tweet class, doesn't matter. What do you guys want to build first, the user or the tweet? User? Cool. Cool. Very creative and classy of you. All right. User is over here, blue. All right. So, how do I do it? Walk me through it. Nice. 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 What's the first thing I need to do? Oh, that's not right. No, that's not right. Is that right? It looks so far away. I can't. That's right? All right.
We use a TF5 and tab and don't do a long.
That's a pro tip. It's just hard for me to see because I'm not mirroring. All right, so what are we initializing this user with? Cool, let's just make sure can you see this? Is this cool?
Yeah.
Is that better or worse? Mo better? Like this? All right, cool. So what is it initialized with? And? All right, so for the test, right, and for like everything from now on, just build what we tell you, all right? Is there a password in here? All right, cool. In that case, no password, all right? Let me know if I'm doing anything that like you just don't recognize. That was tough. It's like you're better than me. You're all better developers than me. All right, cool. So what else do we need? Accessor? Are we ever rewriting this username?
No. So it's
Reader?
reader only.
Ooh, that's dirty. It says accessor? Build what we tell you.
Why would it be an accessory if you're not technically changing?
Because at some point you would want the feature to change your username, right? Like, I don't know. Let's just say for whatever reason I meet someone bigger, stronger, and better at developing than me, and it goes, hey, my name's Wangtron. I'm just gonna go right to my Twitter and I'm gonna delete mine. I'm just gonna change it to something else, like Wangtron2, because I'm embarrassed, right? No, but I mean, there's a feature to like change your username, right? So that would be why it makes sense. All right, great, man, you guys are flying. That is done. Oh, just kidding. You guys don't want to do that? What's up?
Right. There.
Nice, nice. It's so easy to like judge somebody else's code though, right? Okay, so what do we need to do here? Huh?
Define an instance.
So right here, if you've ever seen this like little pound hash, whatever, this just means like method, right? So you're absolutely right. That's a little def, right? The method name is what? Tweets. And what should tweets do? Does tweets take an argument? No. So it says it should return an array of tweet instances. How do we do that? Tricky, tricky. The two @ signs?
You have to initialize an array
Under adder? I like all these ideas, right? So make a new class, something with like and what? The two @ signs, cool.
I think you can actually put all that into the tweet file and then access the tweet file within this one. So you're going to be pulling from. You use has many tweets from the file.
So
And then you can, through this method, access the tweet class.
absolutely.
And actually push all of the tweets through.
Yes, you said all of those steps, and that's great. Who followed that? No, I'm glad you're tracking. That's good, right? So the first thing I realized is that I need tweet instances, right? So how can I call tweet instances from the user class? The first alarm and the first thing that should have like not made sense is I need tweet instances. I'm in the user class. They're not the same, right? They're going to be coming from a different class, right? So we're talking about the single source of truth, and that is all the tweet instances come from where? The tweet class, right? The tweet class knows about the tweets. The user class knows about the user. So let's do that, right? First thing I should do is I should test my code because I don't even know if it works, right? Let's get into this like sweet money habit, right? And then we can do a binding here. Anyone like not following along? Cool. Yeah. What should I call for this? All right. Great. And first thing I want to check is my user class exist? Absolutely. All right. And now what do I have? I can do a user.new. Yes, it's going to give me that weird hash thing I was talking about, right? And it's like coffee dad. Cool. This is what I was talking about, by the way, if you were like wondering why I did that. This just like talks about what the object ID is, where it's stored in memory, and it says that this is like an instance of the user class. These are all the attributes that are listed, and right now it's just username. So I wrote the accessor, all right? So I can always do like, what? Coffee dad equals to, what was that sweet shortcut I taught you? That's right, underscore. Cool. All right, underscore saves the last return, right? So if I have coffee dad, what can I call on it? Dot username, right? Because I'm calling the getter method username, which was defined here, which also super quickly looks like this, right? I don't need this. This is trash. It's trash code, right?
Can I stop you for a second?
Absolutely.
Why is it copy.dev again? Why .dev?
Oh, I assigned the variable coffee dad to equal, right? I'm assigning it the value of the underscore, which is the instance of the class user.
Sorry.
You good?
Yeah.
All right. So remember, coffee dad is an instance, right? User class, right?
The line of your data enters says coffee.dead.
Oh, is that the question? Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. That's a typo, so you are totally correct. Cool. And what is that going to give me? As a string, right? So far, so good? All right, cool. So I tested my code, so let's do this thing. So I know I need to do what? I need to make tweet instances. All right, so let's do that. I'm in my little tweet. Bet. What do I need now? Actually, what am I doing? A little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Cool. What does tweet need? Okay. And what does it take?
It's a tweet.
Strings.
Oh, what's a string?
When I make a new tweet, what should I have? A string? Right? So like message, right? Whatever that tweet message is. Anything else? That's cool, right? So we'll just have message for now. So far, so good? All right, and then what do I need to have this tweet.message return a string? Do I just make a new one? Message, sorry. And what's that going to return? That string message? Yeah?
Can we just make?
Oh, okay, so you want this bad boy. You want that? So this code is trash. Let's get out of here. All right? Questions so far on this getter method, how I refactored it into add a reader, and how it actually is meeting this deliverable? Raise your hand if you understood it. Okay, you got a question?
So
Yeah.
So it's written as string, so do I need to like message if it's messages string, something like
Okay, that's a very good question. The question is, do I have to 2s, right, whatever the instance variable return value is? The answer is probably not, because when you make a new tweet, what am I going to do here? Does this look familiar? All right, what am I going to pass it in as a message? String. So if this is always going to be a string, I probably don't need to 2s it. But I like where your head's at, because users would probably put weird things. They'll probably be like, oh, tweet.new, and then just go blah, 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 blah. And you're like, anyways, but yeah, right? So like, tweet-a-lead, right? You guys know that song? Rockin' in the treetop. Right. I grew up in a different time, I guess. So, any questions on creating a new tweet, how that message gets passed in, how I'm calling that message? Something I want to indicate as important, right, later on, is, remember, what does this mean? It's a method, right? Okay, cool. What's next? What do we do now, right? We should test. So let me do that. Let me do a little bit of this. All right, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. Anything else? We good? All right, so does my tweet exist in this session?
No.
All right, bet. Let's get in there. Oops, just kidding. What should I be running? Oops.
Oh, you misspelled initialize.
Oh, I did, didn't I? Easy to judge. Yeah? Cool. So what do we have? We have the tweet class, right? And then we can just run tweet.new. So like t equals to this new tweet, like this. And then what? We have a message, right? Why am I calling t.message and not tweet.message?
Tweets and classes.
T is the instance, and I'm calling this instance method, which is like refactored into here, on the instance. Instance method on the instance, right? So boom, Tweetly. Any questions so far? All right. So every time I build one of these things, I want to test it. I want to make sure it's good to go. So what's next? Right? Can we do this yet? Probably not yet, because I need some sort of collection of tweets. So let's go to the next one. What is tweet method user? Returns an instance of the user class. What does that mean? Someone said self? So it's like a guess. I like the guess. Just tell me what that means a little bit. Anyone but you. It's fine. Yeah, you said like all 9 steps when I like first asked, so it's fine. Okay.
Should we create another method within the class?
We should create another method. So the tweet.user returns an instance of the user class, right? So let's try it. All right, user. And how do we return an instance of another class? We can, in fact, create an instance. Yes, we can. We can just do, I don't know, some like user.new if we wanted to. But am I making a new user when I ask, hey, tweet, which user created you? If I say, hey, tweet, right, which user created you, and then you just made a new user, would that make sense to you? No, it doesn't, right? And it shouldn't. If that made sense to you, like, see me after. I'm just kidding. So we have a user, right? How do we get this user in the same way that we got this message? We would do add or accessor what?
User.
What, user? So what does this give me?
It's the user. You could write the user equal to something or
So like at user. This is like the getter method, right? So this right here writes what 2 methods?
and user equals.
Like new username? New user, I guess. So this right here and this are exactly the same, right? And let's finish your thought. Where is at user coming from? In the initialize? It's going to come from the user class, right? So how do we get that into this? How do we build the relationship? Only because I know you know. Mr. Wang.
User pass or just create a tweet, pass in, have it pass in.
I like where your head's at. You're passing in something. You're passing in self. So when I define initialize, I'm going to pass in myself.
have it pass in itself to a tweet, so it has.
Okay, so I think what you're talking about is when you have a user create a tweet, you're passing in like yourself. I will get there in a second. But the question right now is, I need to have this method user return an instance of the user class. All right. So, unfortunately, I deleted it, but I'm sure you can pull it back into your memory because the artistry was so amazing. All right. When I said the words, a tweet belongs to a user, and a user has many tweets, what am I really saying? I'm saying that in this tweet, right, it belongs to a user. So that means when I do tweet.new, I have to have the message, and I probably should have which user made me, right? I probably need to know these two things as the tweet. I need to know who made me and what my message is. So if that's the case, then I probably need to pass in here in the initialize the actual user, right? Which would then make sense that I have all this, right? But again, I probably can't rewrite the user that made me. So I don't need to be able to reset the user that made me. I just need to be able to read the user that made me, right? So this, right, would mean that now I have the user, and this will return the user, but this looks awfully familiar. Everyone understand what I just did, right? I saw that I now have a user because I'm going to be passing in the user, right? I'm going to be passing in some sort of user, right? And I assigned it to an instance variable. I wrote this getter method, which I then refactored into the adder reader. And now, if I were to call tweet like the instance dot user, it should return to me the actual user that I made it. So what is the user that made me? I probably need to have at some point, right, like your boy equals to user.new, right, and the name is Swagtron, right? So what is your boy exactly? The instance, right? That's probably the user that made me. I'm passing in an instance of the user class into a tweet.new. So now when I have user, it's not a string, it's the object. Right? Remember, user.new is the class. Your boy is an instance of that class. So when I pass in your boy into tweet.new, right? Tweet.new calls initialize. And then user is now your boy. So at user is going to be the instance your boy from the user class. That is like the whole round trip. Any questions, and do you need me to repeat that? That is like super important for you to understand. I will definitely repeat that slower and more clear if you did not get it.
Are you able to call the user class in a tweet file? Or do you need it like explicitly?
No, and I'm going to get to that in the next step, but great observation.
You're invoking the user.new initiating a new instance on the tweet file, right? But that user.new is in another file, right? So how do you
Exactly. That's the exact question he asked. So now you're all thinking, right? Like, how do I even have access to this user.new, right? What I could do is I could probably, if I'm lazy, copy this whole code and just put it like right in there, right? So I'm just gonna get rid of this. So I'm gonna have a class user here, right? I just probably don't need this right. And then I'm gonna have a class tweet here. And so now user exists in this file. Does that make sense? That I can do that if I wanted to. I can if I wanted to. That's probably not a good idea, right? And here's what we can do. We can make some sort of like, let's get out of here. We can make some sort of like combo file, right? But what we like to do in Ruby is called the run file. So if you see like run.rb, that's what it's doing. It's just going to combine them all. So now, in my run file, how do I get access to another file? How do I copy and paste the entire contents of a file into another file?
Can we just point that file to the directory?
Yes, I can point this file to read another file, and it's done like this. Yeah. Have you seen this before? So what does require relative do? What was that, Johnny?
I'm saying like you probably have to refer to the other, specify what file, directory you want to read.
Yep. So I want to look in, right, to clarify, what require relative is going to do is it's literally going to copy and paste the contents of my file into this one. So I can do what? This directory, that's what the slash is, right? In this directory, I want what file? The tweet file. I also want what? The user, right? I'm in the same directory because it's all in this 0300 one-to-many folder. It's in the same folder. If it's in the same folder, I don't really have to worry about this. Also, because Ruby can read Ruby, I don't have to specify that it's Ruby. All right? So, all this is doing is copying and pasting everything from tweet.rb and user.rb into this file. So it makes sense that I no longer need all of this jazz. I don't need this, all right? I can just have my tweet class in my tweet file, like, by itself, that single responsibility, all right? In the same way that my user only has the user and that single responsibility. Let me get rid of this prime. I'm also going to get rid of this prime. So, a lot of you brought up that point that I don't have access to the user file in my tweet class, or my tweet file rather. So, I just made a file that has both of them in there. So I can, in fact, do this now, right? Because remember, tweet class is here and user class is here. So when I call user.new, it's pulling it from here. Right? But I don't actually know because I'm a bad developer. So let's test. That's not going to work. Why is this not going to work? I don't have pry here. Cool. So what file should I run now? That combo file, right? What does the error say? What is it? Uninitialized constant user. Do I have to drop .rb? That's new. That's weird.
It's a capital user.
Does it really want this? Does it want this?
Save the building tweet file.
Oh,
It's not saved.
embarrassing. I know I'm not crazy. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Just get out of here. Yeah, I see. It doesn't need that. This is trash. This is trash. This is trash. Let's get out of here. I didn't save the like the tweet file and like the user file, so that's why it didn't exist. So everything I said earlier about require relative is right. I was just doing like a sanity check. All right. So let's check. Right? Does user exist? Cool. Does tweet exist? Cool. Right? What is your boy? Right? And what is your boy's class? Oh, user. Right? I'm just highlighting it so you can see it. All right. So what is tweet then? I'm sorry. What is? I should have. Let's just make another one. All right. T equals this. So what is T dot username? Let's just make sure everything works. Oh. Whoa, sorry. Yeah. T.user. And look at that. It returns the object user. And then I can do T.user, right? Because it's an object, what does that object know about? Its username? Swagtron. And that's how I build and establish my relationships, right? It's important that I pass in the object when I need to build that relationship, right? The user object goes into the tweet class. I shouldn't be putting in, right? Like if I were to put tweet.new, like I don't want to be putting in like this tweet is under 250 characters and then like Gary. I can, it'll work, right? Like busted tweet, right? Equals to what, underscore? So if I did busted tweet dot user, what am I gonna get? I'm just gonna get Gary. So does Gary have then a username? Absolutely not, because there's no such thing as username, the method on the string class. Does that make sense? I can't call, because remember, busted tweet.user is Gary, and busted tweet is this, and this is what happens when I pass in a string instead of the actual object when I'm making it, which is your boy here, which is the instance of user. I need to pass in the object. That's how the relationships are made. Pass in the object. Pass in the object.
So you can also about passing object. Where is the passing object?
Absolutely. In the run file, when I did user new, I just made it, right? Let's just make it just for you. Johnny Cash, right? When I make the new tweet, right? Johnny Cash says, questions all day, right? And then I pass in the instance of the user, which is you, which is Johnny. Right? And your name's not Swagtron. It's J Cash, right? Johnny Cash.
Oh, he died a long time ago.
Oh, wow, whoa, that was morbid, but yeah. So, does this make sense to you?
Yeah.
Is that clear now? I'm passing in the object right here. That's how I got it. All right? And it's so important that I run all my tests into this combo file, which is known as run.
How does Ruby separate like Johnny and how does Ruby tell if Johnny is an object or a string?
How does Ruby tell Johnny is the object and not a string? Because
I'm saying because you're doing it two different ways.
this is string Johnny, and this is the variable.
Yeah, so Ruby just automatically knows.
I mean, in theory, I could just do this if you want me to.
But if you pass it in like the string Johnny, it still works too, right?
Who thinks that if I pass in the string Johnny, it will work?
Isn't that what you just did?
Absolutely, 100% it will work, but you will not have.
It will break, but it's just so Ruby just knows that it can be either. It just knows the.
It. The reason it works is because when I pass in user, what is user right here? Anything. So when I assign anything to the instance variable of user, it'll take it. I could just make this an array if I wanted to, right? I can put like, you know, tweet.new, and then I can put like, you know, it's like some tweet.
Okay.
And then I can pass in an array if I wanted to. And guess what? User is now an array.
Is there any way to like stop that?
There is a way, right? You can always always make sure that @user is equal to an object or something. But you're worried about like nil checking, and you're worried about like protecting data, and that's like really high level thinking.
Okay.
And I will get with you offline about that.
Okay.
But any questions so far on the relationship between user and tweet? How I established the user and the tweet and the relationship and passing in the object?
Sorry, can you just go back to the user file? I just want to see how you are establishing that relationship. Oh, so like for previous, in the run class, sorry.
Okay.
So, okay. So you're creating the object Johnny.
Right. So Johnny is what? The instance or the class? Right. Now I'm passing an instance of Johnny into a new tweet. So when I call like this tweet, t equals, I'm assigning t to be the variable, right? T in fact has access to what? What is Johnny here? The second parameter of tweet is user, right? So I can just do tweet.user, right? And that's going to return me Johnny. And then Johnny knows about what? The username. So I can do Johnny.username. And that's going to give me the string that I want. Great question. Anything else? Clarifying? All right, so now we've banged out these two deliverables, right? What's next? Should we try to hammer this out? Cool, let's do that. So what is tweet.all? It's a class method. And how do I know that? So remember, what did I say this hashtag was? Right? It just refers to a method, right? So that means that in the tweet class, there is a method called user, right? What does this kind of look like when I do, I don't know, t.user.username? It's a specific method call, right? So if I'm calling .all on the tweet class, what does that probably indicate .all is? If I'm calling the method on the method class, what kind of method would it be? Class method, right? So let's do this, right? A little bit def action. Oh, that was weird. Cool. So we have a method called all, right? And how do we call it on the class? Right. Does anybody not understand this self here? So when I'm in the class, right, I'm in the method, right? If I'm in like a method user, right? Self inside of an instance method refers to the instance. So if this self is called inside the tweet class, what is self here? Class, right? So then if I do self again, what is self in the self.all in the tweet class? It's the class. Self will always refer to whatever just called upon it. So remember, I'm in the class tweet. What is self in the class tweet? The class, right? So what is self in the class tweet? The class, right? So this refers to tweet capital T right here. Check. Check, 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 check. Cool. All right. So what do we need here? We need to be able to return all the tweets that were created. So I'm just going to cut right to the chase, and this is kind of important. Instance variables, right, are assigned to the class of the instance. Right. So class variables are assigned to what? The instance of the class. Right? That's how we write class variables, right? With this at prefix that you mentioned earlier. See? Right? Very good. So if this is a class variable, right? The class variable knows about everything in the class. The class variable knows about everything in the class. I can call a class variable on a class, and it knows about everything in the class.
So would it be considered a global variable?
It is considered a variable that has a larger scope than an instance variable or a local variable, but it is not a global variable. A global variable will be available anywhere in your code at all times, which is very dangerous. You can imagine, like, right now I already have 4 files, right? And I just built this in like an hour. Can you imagine, like, if you've been working on this project for a year and a half, like, how many files do you think Snapchat is? Probably more than 4. Just a wild guess, right? And then if I drop a global variable and it's available in every single file, in every line of code, anywhere, that can get kind of tricky, right? Imagine like trying to find that thing. Forget that. I do not want to be the developer that does that. It's going to be a bad day. We'll talk more about global variables in another time, but I like where your head's at. This does increase the scope, right? Because the instance variable, again, the instances have access to it, right? This tweet only has access to the instance variables. I cannot call a class variable on this tweet instance. It's not going to work. All right, that's when you cross the wires.
So if it's a double add,
Double add.
or I just change like all capital A, LL, it's gonna be global, right?
Capital A-L-L,
Yeah, so that
right?
it just cross over.
The reason it's yellow and the reason it's capitalized is because this is what is known as a constant.
So that's the global.
No, constant is a constant variable. Global variable is a global variable. A global variable has access to every single line in your code, right? A constant is just a special type of variable that does not allow you to mutate the data. So for example, all right, let's just do this, right? What is like const, right? Equals to an array 1, 2, right? So what is const again? It's just an array 1, 2, right? Can I do anything with that data? I should not be able to change 1 and 2 in this array, right? Like let's just set another const, right? Const, right, equals to 6, 5, whatever, right? Why can I not do this? It's already signed. I cannot mutate the data. You remember when I did A? I was like, A is 1. Like, just kidding, A is an array. Just kidding, A is a hash. Just kidding, A is a string. I could do that. But once I drop the constant, sorry, I did something wild. But once I drop the constant, right, I cannot mutate the data anymore. That does not mean it's a global variable. We will get much deeper into that at another time. I'm not going to derail the lecture, but great question. Any question on anything except const and global variables? All right, cool. Let's move on. So I have this class variable, right? Oh, throwing me off. I have this class variable, right? And it says that .all, right, returns all the tweets created. So do I want this .all to be like a string? Right? I probably want it to be some sort of like list, right? An array. So I'll set it to be an array. What does initialize get called by again? New. So whenever I call new, initialize gets called. Right? Check. Check. So I can in fact take this class variable and I can shovel in there because it's an array, right? I can shovel in, right? If you really want to get fancy, you can do a dot push, right? If you don't know what that is, it's this. This is just the syntactical sugar for it, right? What do I want to push into this all array? I want to push in the instance, the current instance that just got initialized, right? That current instance that just got initialized on the .new is going to be the instance itself. And I will kind of try my best to explain that as best as I can. So, all right, that's wild. Cool. Oh, Johnny, killing me, Smalls. What did I do? Oh, there's 2 H's. Everybody's a critic. Cool. Ah! You need another N?
Yep.
It's easy to judge. Cool. All right. So, what this means is, what this means is when I do this, All right, I can pass in, what's like, Blake. I don't know, I've never actually tried to spell it before. All right. Remember we talked about the binding? Do I have access to Johnny? I sure do. So let's just throw Johnny in there. I'm going to spell it right this time. This is what's going to happen. It's going to do this, and immediately it's going to run initialize. It's going to take the message, which is, and it's going to take the user Johnny. It's going to take the message, assign to message. User is going to be the Johnny, and then it's going to run into this. It's going to try to push self, which is T now, right? Back here and back here. T, which is the actual instance, right? Like the actual instance, whatever this is, all right? T, the instance, into an array, into the class array, whenever a .new happens. So if I were to do tweet.new, 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 how many items are in my all array? Should be 3, right? Because every time I call tweet.new, it's going to push that exact one into the @all array, which is the class variable, right? So let's do this real quick. A little bit of this. Oh, I didn't hold shift, in case you were wondering. I gotta exit out of this. Oop, clap. Y'all got me stuck on constants. Ridiculous. Cool. So if I were to do like tweet.new, right? Who has a tweet? Yo girl, is that what you said?
Hello world.
Hello world. So classy of you. All right. Unfortunately, Johnny's my only user, so Johnny, you're up, man. Cool. Right? Does that work? So now the tweet has a message, has a user with the username of jcache.
So this returns the string.
I haven't done anything. I literally, this just tells me that I just, so I'm sorry, it should be on one line. Oh, just kidding. Doesn't want to do it. But it's just a tweet object with the @message, and the @user is equal to my user object, which was Johnny. Yeah? What's up?
So I have a question for the self.all. Where does the self-local variable come from?
Okay. I don't know what
Class,
the.
sorry,
Oh, okay, cool.
class.
Yeah. Words mean things. So where does it come from?
Yeah, but is that,
I just made it right here.
that's all.
Oh, sorry. Whoa. Oh. Boo boo. Cool. So now this is not going to work. It's rough. Times are rough. Right? But I can do this again. So, remember, the class variable gets called on the class. Right? So how do I get the class of tweet? Sure, I'll just help you out here. All right? That's the class tweet. And then what is the class variable I want to call on it? Right, cool. So now I have these 2 tweets. Why do I have 2? Because I made one in my runner file already. All right? Which means that if I actually do this, not hello world. All right? Does anyone else have another tweet for Johnny? Johnny, I'm just going to put words in your mouth. What?
Respect the wealth.
Oh, spread the wealth? All right, we'll do both. Spread the wealth, right? And then Johnny, apparently you also respect the wealth.
Respect the wealth.
Johnny, you're the man. All right. So now, if I were to do tweet, which is the class or instance, .all, which is a class or instance method. Remember, is this a class or instance method? Right, cool. I'm going to get all of Johnny's spread the wealth, respect the wealth, your hello world, questions all day, all right? And all of this in this array. And that's what's happening when I push self into the @all. But what else do I have? What do I have here, right? Who's T? Who's Jay? Oh no, I have Johnny, right? Do I need? All right, I'll just make one, right? So I'll put, I'm just an instance, right? Not a class. Cool. And then I'll put not a class is equal to the return value of the last one, which would make it the tweet I just made, right? The instance of the tweet. So not a class is a instance or a class? Thank God, because I try to give it to you over there, right? So can I call a class method on an instance? I cannot. Any questions on class, instance, class methods, instance methods, class variables, instance variables, and who can call on what?
You just want the all thing to store everything. Like, not just for one user, just tweet this made.
Say again?
The all here is just storing any tweet made, like not the user.
It's storing all the tweets that are ever made ever. Yes.
Is there any reason why you couldn't just store like the messages? Like why did you need to store like
The tweet objects?
yeah, I guess you're pushing in the entire object, right? But do you
If I store all the tweets, right, will I ever know who tweeted the tweet?
Okay, I see. So that's
That's why I want the object, because the object knows about what two things? The tweet object knows about what two things?
the message and the user.
The message and the username itself, which is why I want all of the tweet objects, because then I can just kind of figure out, hey, in each one of them, who tweeted it and what was the message. And I can track you like the FBI. You know what I'm saying? That was a joke. I know. The uniform scared you, right? Sorry. Any questions so far on classes, class variables, class methods? Instances, instance variables, and instance methods.
For the class variable, is that usually only used for the class method, or it's because I'm trying to think, is that just for differentiate from the instance variable, right? Is it gonna be
Yes, they are different. So what do I have here? What is the T is a tweet, right? Can I call an instance variable on this? What's the instance variable for tweet? User? Yeah, right? Should I be able to call this? Yes, this is a instance method on an instance. T is an instance, right? So what about tweet the class?
Yeah, I'm asking the double act.
Yeah.
For that specifically. So for that, we created that only because we have the class method. So we want to make it different from the instance variable, like the single act, right?
Yes. So the reason, that's a very good question. The reason I decided to make this a class variable and not an instance variable is because each one of my individual tweets should not know about every other tweet. If I made this, right? If I made this an instance variable, right, and I passed in self here, I guess that would work, right? And then I'd have to add a reader, right? Like all. And then I don't need this anymore because that's a class. This is what you're asking. Why did I make it a class versus instance, right? So if I did this, right? This makes it an instance or a class? An instance, right? So if I were to save this, I'm not going to, right? And what is T exactly? T is the instance of a tweet class, right? I would be able to call tweet.all if this is true. Yes or no? Who thinks that I would be able to call t.all, which is an instance, calling on an instance variable with the instance getter? Sorry, this needs this. I would be able to call this, right, to answer your question. The problem with that is this individual tweet would now have access to every single tweet.
So how about like you don't comment the stuff? Yeah.
I don't comment this out?
Yeah, just change it to like single at for now.
Why would I want to change this to a single at?
I just want to know.
You mean like this?
No, still keep this now.
Okay,
You can remove the
sure,
later, yeah.
sure.
And I mean, if you just create it like that.
Uh-huh.
Or,
Would this work?
yeah, because it's just basically changing the class variable to an instant.
This would work.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because this indicates it's a class method, right? So when I call tweet.all, it's going to return to me this. But if I were to call if I were to call this t.all, it would not work. Because there is no getter method for all on the instance right now because you made me delete it. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason everyone in here is like, what the? Is because it doesn't make sense. So I'm answering your question, but to answer your question, it will work. It's very hacky, but it doesn't make sense. Why would my class call on an instance variable that returns everything in my class? Exactly. Right? Like, why would I call on an instance, all right, to know everything? The class should know everything. Is everyone following that? That was like a really good rabbit hole to go down because it should have made sense why we don't do things. And therefore, why we do the things we do. Yeah? I'll wait, it's fine. Yeah? What's up?
But if you did it like that, wouldn't the all not actually have access to all of the tweets if they were made after it was made? So like if we have T right now, and then we made another tweet, it would have the second tweet would have T and the new one.
Yeah, because I'm shoveling into the array.
But the first one, T, wouldn't have the new one created.
It should.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Ruby does exactly what you tell it to do, which is sometimes wonky. Right? You cool? Your feels? Check Roger. Airborne? North, south, up, down? Yes.
So just question about the Ruby.
About this broken stuff, or you want me to change it back to like the good, clean
Just
working
about,
code?
like, the naming convention
Okay, cool.
of the instance variable versus the class variable. Does Ruby look through it to make sure we named it that way, or it would have worked because, like, does it matter if we name it with 2 at signs versus 1?
Does it matter if I name this with 2 at signs or 1?
Yeah, like execution wise, like does it check the 2 at signs to make sure it's a class variable versus instance variable, or it's just
It does.
just for us writing it?
It will.
Oh.
I'm not gonna repeat it because it'd be confusing. It's not important. Does anyone have any other questions? That was a good question though. Class variable, class methods. Instance, instance variable, instance methods. Right? Like that divide in your mind. Right? Alright, cool. So let's keep going, right? So we have this all that totally works, it rocks, right? But with that, we now have access to all of the tweet instances. We have access to all the tweet instances. Can we make this method that returns an array of all the tweet instances? Just like Bob the Builder, yes we can, right? I'm probably too old for that show, but it's fine. I have nieces and nephews. So, tweets. How did I get all the tweets from before? I called what? This class method dot all. All right. So here, add all doesn't really exist yet, right? So I have to go tweet the class, and I have to call the class method all, and that will give me all the tweets.
You should have the
Huh?
Do you need the run link on top?
I don't need it here because I'm going to be running the run file, which has tweet and user. But you're right. If I were to run ruby.user.rb, it would break immediately because it would hit this and be like uninitialized constant. So when you run into those errors, it's because you don't have the file. So you should be putting all your tests in your runner, right? In the run file. Any questions on that? All right, so let's test, yeah? Boop, 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 boop. Click up. Cool. So what did I want? I wanted the user tweets. An array of tweet instances. So let's do that. What's my user? Johnny Cash. And what was the method name? Yeah? Oh, sorry, I went too far back. I'm done. This is after I corrected this boo-boo. Cool. And there we go. I now have all the tweets. All right. Any questions so far on this? This is going to give me all of the tweets, every single one of them. All right. Here's where like the tricky, weird part is. Right. Let's just say I have. Who wants to make a tweet? I guess Gary does. Right. Cool. All right. And then Gary is G Money. All right, anyone else want to make a tweet? Gary's 2 R's. Parker. Right? What's your tweet? What's your username? Just at Parker? Wow.
I'm not old like wait.
All right, cool. Anyone else or no? All right, no volunteers. Cool. I don't know. So now let's make some tweets, right? So Gary made this one. Gary, what do you want to say?
Kill all bugs.
Cool. And then Parker, what do you got?
Cardio kills gains.
Yep, that's right. Don't do CrossFit. No, I'm just kidding. Cardio kills gains, right? It's just a tweet. Don't worry about it. It's not relevant right now. So, all right, let's figure this out, right? Let's run this Ruby. Oh, snap. They're all T. Right? So let's just put JT for Johnny's tweet, right? GT for Gary's tweet, and then PT for physical training. So, cool. All right, everyone following so far? Did I do anything crazy or wild? No, right? I just made more tweets, so I have access to them, so I can test it. Now, we know that I want to get an array of tweet instances in tweets for the user class. Right now I have tweet.all. So I can do tweet.all, and I get all the tweets, right? Except Jake Hash made this one, G Money made this one, and @Parker made this one, right? What if I were to call Parker.tweets? What am I going to get? What am I going to get? For Parker? Well, Ruby will do exactly what it tells you, and that is tweet.all. So if I call pt.tweets, it's going to give me what? What the? No, it's tweets. I spelled it wrong? Oh, no, this is just a method.
Back to their runner.
Back to the run. Oh, these are tweets. Sorry, I need to call the user. That makes sense, right? So Parker is the user, right? Sorry, PT was the tweet itself. My bad. Parker is the user itself, right? If I call the tweets on the user, what do I get? I get Parker's tweet, but also Gary and Johnny's, right? Which is probably like not what we want. That's not like intuitive, right? What we wanted was that person's tweet, that specific instance, all the tweets that that person did, right? So in the same way that if I were to call Parker or even Gary, it's going to give me all the tweets again. I don't want that. I want that person's specific tweets. All right? You follow me so far? Like, when I run this, I should be seeing only kill all bugs. Right? Okay, so let's do that. Let's make some more tweets. Gary, you got any more tweets for me? Cool, that's a good one. Anything else?
Oh, me?
Nah.
Sure.
All right, Parker, you got anything?
Class method.
Very good, all right? That sounds like someone I know. So, cool, we don't need the rest of this. Let's see. Gary tweet 2, Gary tweet 3, and then, oh no, did I kill it? I did. Let's just kill all the gains, right? Right, cool. And then I'm just gonna change it up so it's like Parker tweet 2, right? Everyone following like, oh God, I'm lazy. So, is that, did I lose anyone on this? All right, so now what we want to do is we want actually this tweets to do what? Return the tweets that that instance, that specific person tweeted, right? That makes sense? So how do we do that? I have all the tweets here, right? I have all the tweets here. I have all the tweets, every single one of them, right? How would I do it? I would select the ones where what? Where the user equals the user that I'm calling it on, right? So, why would I not use map and why would I not use find? That's right. Find is another iterator, but it will only return one and the first one where whatever condition I write is true, right? So like, for example, find do, right? You guys all love this. I don't know why. X, right, equals to 1. This is like the condition, and then end, right? This is probably no good because it only ever going to return 1, right? And remember, tweets is what? How many? It's more than 1, right? So, what does map do? I heard a lot of different things, so I'm just going to like say the answer. Map mutates the original array, right? So do I want to mutate the original array? Do I want to change the tweet array? The items in the tweet, do I want to change them? No. So what do I really want to do? I only want to grab the ones where the condition is true, right? So I'm going to select. That's like the iterator that I want to use, right? And what is the condition here, right? So what are all these again? Are these X's? All right, they're tweets, right? So each individual tweet, right? I have a tweet, right? What do I know about this tweet? What do I know about this tweet? I have a message and I have a user. And that user has a specific username, right? So can I call, right? What do I have? JT? Can I call JT.user? Right? That's going to give me that specific user that made that tweet. All right? So if I have a specific user that made that tweet, wouldn't it make sense that I can go through all of the tweets and check, hey, is that user me? And then I can find out if I made that tweet, right? So let's write that code. Tweet dot what? User. Does that equal me? Self. Wow, that was awful. Right? And the reason I say that is because when I did, who's the user? Parker dot tweets, right? Oh man, that's not gonna give me anything. I did Parker dot tweets. Who is Parker right here? Parker is the class or instance? It's the instance. So an instance method calls what? Instances call what? Instance methods. So what is self on this instance in this exact scenario? Parker. Right? So, what is Parker? Parker is a user. Right? What does tweet.user return? A user. So, what if I had pt.user? That Parker's tweet, that user is equal to Parker. I'm always going to call the instance method on an instance. So I can always just check to see if that user is equal to the user that called it. So this should in fact give me a collection. It selects the tweets from all the tweets where I'm the one that tweeted it. Everything I just said is an example of what I need you to be able to explain during the assessment. If it's starting to make more sense here, this is what I need you to do, right? I need you to look at all the deliverables, write them, and I'm just going to ask you, hey, why did you use tweet.all in the user class? Oh, because I need to get all of the tweets for this user. Good, great answer. Okay, what are you doing here? Why are you mapping through? If you're like, oh, I'm just going to grab the ones where the tweet is equal to me, and I'm like, okay, why map? And if you're like, I don't know, it's just my favorite iterator. I'm like, okay. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, but if you're like, I'm using select because I need to select from all the tweets where a certain condition is true. And that condition is, I want to check each tweet's user, and I want to see if it's equal to me. So let's check. Right? So remember this, and let's take this runner file, and we have them all. And let's shrink that up a little bit. So now that everyone can see everything, is this like enough information to see? Cool. So I'm going to run the run file. Right? And now I'm going to check what? A user. Give me a user. Johnny, Gary, or Parker? The choice is yours. Gary, right? So Gary.tweets is going to do what? Only where that username is gmoney. Because if you remember, Gary is gmoney. This is usually what people like clap or something, but I guess, I mean, you should already figure it out. Yeah. Right? So how is that going to be different than when Parker.tweets is called? What's the only difference between Gary and Parker tweets? The user that calls it, the instance that calls it, and it's only going to give me Parker's tweets. Right? Because look, Parker here, just to nail it home, Gary.tweets, when it runs this method and it goes in here, what is self? Gary. When I call Parker.tweets and I go through here, what is self? Parker, because Parker is the instance that calls it. Self takes on the object that calls it. Right? Any questions so far? Any questions on self?
Just the dot user. Where you get the dot user? I'm just confused.
Where am I getting dot user? On line 18?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is tweet.all, Johnny? Tweet dot all, dot all, dot all. What is tweet dot all? What does it give you, Johnny?
That would be the
It should give you a array.
message user.
It gives you a message with the user,
I mean the object of the
the object of the user. Who wants to help Johnny out? Unless you got it. Anybody?
Gives you an array of tweets.
Yeah, so tweet.all will give you all of the tweets. Because remember, whenever I call tweet.new, it pushes it into this array. So every single time I call tweet.new, the array gets bigger. All gets bigger. And all is going to hold all of the tweets. All of the tweet objects. Right? So now I have all the tweet objects. So what is tweet.all? Great. So I'm going to select, right, which we beat to death, right? Okay. Each one of these what?
object.
Okay, let's just make this more confusing, right? Object. Or it's a tweet object, right? So I'm just going to put tweet there. And now, in those tweets, what do I have access to in the tweet object? If you remember, this is a tweet, right? In the tweet object, what do I have access to? What two things?
And user and message.
Yes. So if I have access to a user, can I call tweet.user? Okay, so if I call Johnny's tweet, that's what JT is, remember? That's your tweet, because we passed in you. If I call JT.user, what am I going to get? Johnny. So this right here is Johnny, all right? And I want to check to see if that's equal to self. That's all I'm going to do. So if I were to call, I don't know, Johnny.tweets, what is self when I call tweets, when I call this? Yes, self is Johnny. So if self is Johnny, I'm going to go through every single one of the tweets, all of them. I'm going to go, hey, JT, tweet.new. This is the first one. Is the username Johnny? Yes, put it in the array. Tweet 2, is the username Johnny? Yes, put it in. Tweet 3, is the username Johnny? No, reject, 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 reject. So then my array just becomes 2 with only your tweets. And that's how this code is running. And that's why this will return only your tweets. Any questions on that so far? This lecture has gone really, really long, but this is the hardest part of the assessment. If you could do this and my lecture tomorrow, you're good. Don't study for the test. All I need you to do is be able to say everything that I just said, not word for word, and it's not going to be tweets. It'll be like something else, something cooler, probably. Like, I don't know, squirrels' nests in trees. All right, we'll build that out. It'll be fun. Does anybody have any questions, right? So now that you have that, let's go back to this, right? I want to fly through this really quickly so it can be in the lecture, and then if you have questions, we'll get to them, right? So look, what is post tweet? Is this an instance or a class method? Instance of what? So let's do that, right? What is it called? Post tweet? Cool. And what does post tweet do? It takes a message. Got it, right? Takes a message. Like, this is the message, right? Does anyone understand that? Yeah. All right. It creates a new tweet. I want to create a new tweet. Create a new tweet. Create a new tweet. Right? And I have what? Oh, the message. I'm going to pass in the message that I'm giving. Right? And I need, tweets needs to know about what two things? The message and? Right. If I'm going to call this instance method, right, on an instance, what do I have access to instead of a user, a generic user? I need a user in here. Me, I'm making this. So what the code will wind up looking like is Johnny.postTweet, right? And the message is going to be like, thanks for that great explanation, right? I don't need to pass it in another argument because guess who's making it? Johnny. Right? Boom, save, right? This is not gonna work, but I'm gonna just save that in there, cache. So now I can run Johnny.postTweet, and he just made this sweet tweet. So now I can call Johnny.tweets, and what should I see in there?
This tweet.
That extra tweet. So it takes a message, it creates a new tweet, which is creating a new tweet here, right? And it adds it to the user's tweet collection, which it does in fact do. And that's all the magic there. I will leave this last one, this last iterable, up to you if you want to do it. But does anyone have any questions on relationships, class with class, instance is instance, and self? Did I hit all of these objectives?
Yes.
Right. Does anyone have any questions? All right, thanks for your time today.